The ship moved through space like a silver fish swimming through dark water. Commander Vextar stood at the front of the bridge, his tall, thin body casting a long shadow across the floor. His blue skin looked almost white under the soft lights of the control room. His large black eyes stared at the main screen, watching the stars drift by slowly. The ship was called Harmony's Edge, and it belonged to the Zephyrian people. They had been exploring this part of space for over 300 years. Their job was simple but important. They would find new worlds and study them. They would watch young civilizations grow and learn. But they never made contact. That was the rule. The Galactic Covenant said that advanced species should not interfere with primitive ones. Vextar had been doing this job for 20 years. He had seen many worlds with early life. He had watched creatures take their first steps on land. He had seen the first fires lit by thinking beings. But he had never seen anything that worried him. Until today, Navigator Quinla sat at her station, near the back of the bridge. Her fingers moved across the glowing controls like she was playing music. She was young for a Zephyrian, only 40 years old, but she was one of the best navigators in the fleet. Her voice was soft and musical when she spoke. "Commander, I am getting strange readings ahead of us. Something is out there, about 2 parsecs away. The energy patterns are very unusual." Vextar turned away from the main screen. He walked over to Quinla S station with long, smooth steps. His people moved like dancers, every motion graceful and controlled. He looked at the readings on her screen and felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "This cannot be right," he said quietly. "Run the scan again. Check all the instruments." Quinla S fingers danced over the controls. The same readings appeared again. She looked up at her commander with worry in her large eyes. "The readings are correct, Commander. There is something big out there. Very big, and it is producing energy, like nothing we have ever seen before." Science Officer Temri looked up from her station on the other side of the bridge. She was older than the others, with silver patterns on her blue skin that showed her age and wisdom. She had been studying space for over 60 years. "Commander, I am reading metal compositions that do not match anything in our databases. The energy output is massive, 10 times larger than our ship. Maybe more." Vextar felt his hearts beating faster. The Zephyrians had 2 hearts, and when they were worried, both hearts would race together. He had never felt fear like this before. "What kind of civilization builds something like this?" he asked quietly. "I do not know, Commander. But whoever they are not following the peaceful development patterns we have seen before. This ship is designed for something else, something we do not understand." The bridge became very quiet. The only sounds were the soft hums of the machines and the quiet breathing of the crew. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. "Take us closer," Vextar finally said. "But slowly, very slowly, and be ready to run if we need to." As they moved closer to the unknown object, their screens began to show more details. What they saw made everyone on the bridge stop breathing for a moment. The ship was huge. It was longer than 3 of their ships put together. But it was not the size that scared them. It was the design. The ship looked like it was built for war. It had sharp edges and flat surfaces. There were no curves or smooth lines like civilized ships had. It looked dangerous. It looked hungry. "Commander," Temri whispered, "I am counting weapon ports along the hull." "Many weapon ports, more than I can count quickly." "Weapons?" Vextar asked. "Are you sure?" "Yes, Commander. These are not tools for mining or construction. These are weapons designed to destroy other ships." The alien ship grew larger on their screens. They could see symbols painted on its hull, strange markings that their computers could not translate. The symbols looked harsh and aggressive, like the claw marks of some giant predator. "Commander," Quinla said in a voice so quiet it was almost a whisper, "it is changing course. It is turning toward us." Everyone on the bridge looked at the main screen. The massive ship was indeed turning. Its nose was pointing directly at them now. They could see lights flickering along its hull. Systems were coming online. The ship was waking up. "How far away are we?" Vexstar asked. 1.5 parsecs, Commander. "Still far enough to run if we need to." "But not far enough to hide?" Temri added. "Their sensors are scanning us." "Very powerful scanners. They know we are here." Vexstar made a decision that would change everything. Send a message to the Galactic Council. Priority 1. Tell them we have found something they need to know about. "What should I tell them, Commander?" Vexstar looked at the massive ship on the screen. He thought about all the peaceful civilizations he had studied, all the species that had learned to travel between stars through cooperation and wisdom, all the worlds where war was just an old story that no one remembered anymore. Tell them we have found a warrior species. Tell them they have weapons that could destroy fleets. Tell them we may have found the end of the peaceful age. The message was sent instantly through space, traveling faster than light to reach the Galactic Council chambers. It would arrive in 6 hours. 6 hours for the greatest minds in the galaxy to decide what to do about this new threat. But aboard the Harmony's edge, 6 hours felt like 6 years. The crew watched the alien ship on their screens. They waited for something to happen. They waited for the first shot to be fired. They waited for the end of their peaceful world. The alien ship did not fire. Instead, it did something even more frightening. It began to move toward them. Slowly at first, then faster. The massive ship cut through space like a knife through water. Its weapons were still powered down, but they were ready. "Ready for war." "Commander," Quinla said, "what do we do?" Vexstar looked around at his crew. These were good people. Scientists. And explorers. They had never hurt anyone in their entire lives. Their ship had no weapons. They had never needed weapons before. "We wait," he said. "We observe, we learn what we can. And we hope they are not as dangerous as they look." But deep in his heart, Vexstar knew they were in terrible danger. This was not like the other civilizations they had studied. This was something new. Something that the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had learned to travel between stars while keeping their weapons. A species that had reached for the stars with bloody hands. The peaceful age was ending. The age of war was about to begin. And the Zephyrians had just become the first to witness humanity's arrival in the galaxy. The human ship grew larger on their screens. Soon they would be close enough to see the details of its hull. Close enough to count the weapons. Close enough to look into the eyes of the warriors, who had built such a terrible machine. Commander Vexstar stood on his bridge and watched death approach through the darkness of space. He wondered if his message to the council would arrive in time. He wondered if anything could stop what was coming. He wondered if the galaxy would survive its first meeting with the humans. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the middle of the bridge holding his coffee cup. The hot liquid inside was black and strong, just the way he liked it. He was a man of 43 years with gray hair at his temples and lines around his eyes that came from years of staring at star charts and making hard decisions. His uniform was clean and pressed, with silver bars on his shoulders that marked him as the ship's commander. The bridge of the UNS Valkyrie was a busy place. Screens glowed with information from every direction. Officers sat at their stations, watching the darkness of space for anything unusual. The ship was on patrol duty, protecting the outer colonies from pirates and other dangers. It was routine work, but important work. Morrison took a sip of his coffee and looked at the main screen. Stars filled the view, white dots against the black emptiness. They had been out here for 3 weeks, checking shipping lanes and making sure everything was safe. Tomorrow they would turn around and head back to Mars for supplies and rest. "Captain," called Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant from her station near the front of the bridge. "I have something strange on the sensors. Unknown contact about 2 parsecs out." Morrison set down his coffee cup and walked over to Lisa's station. She was a good officer, smart and careful. If she said something was strange, it was worth checking. "What kind of strange?" he asked. Lisa pointed to her screen. The image showed a ship unlike anything Morrison had ever seen. It was sleek and smooth with curved lines that made it look almost alive. The hull seemed to glow with its own light, shifting between different colors like oil on water. "It appeared about 10 minutes ago," Lisa said. "Just dropped out of faster-than-light travel," and stopped. "It's been sitting there ever since, not moving, not responding to our signals." Morrison studied the image carefully. The ship was smaller than the Valkyrie, maybe half the size. But there was something about its design that spoke of advanced technology. The way it moved through space was too smooth, too perfect. No human ship moved like that. "Any weapons?" Morrison asked. "Hard to tell, Captain. The design is so different from anything we know. But I'm not seeing any obvious gun ports or missile tubes." Communications Officer Danny Wright looked up from his station. He was a young man with bright eyes and quick fingers that could work the radio equipment faster than anyone else in the fleet. "Captain, I've been trying to reach them on all standard frequencies, nothing, but they're definitely scanning us. Their sensor sweeps are very sophisticated, much more advanced than ours." Morrison nodded slowly. This was what they had been trained for, but it was still scary. First contact with an alien species. Every officer in the fleet knew the protocols, but none of them had ever used them for real. "Any signs of more ships?" Morrison asked. "Negative, Captain. Just the one contact. But, Captain, there's something else. The ship's power output is incredible. Whatever they're using for engines, it's far beyond anything we have." Morrison walked back to his command chair in the center of the bridge. He sat down and thought about his options. The alien ship was clearly more advanced than the Valkyrie. If they wanted to fight, humans would probably lose. But they weren't showing any signs of aggression. "Reduce speed to 1/4 impulse," Morrison ordered. "Maintain course, but be ready to stop if they signal us. Danny, keep sending our peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Use the mathematical sequences from the first contact protocols." "Aye, Captain," Danny replied. His fingers moved across his controls, sending out signals that any intelligent species should be able to understand. Simple math, pictures, basic concepts that showed humans were smart and peaceful. Chief Engineer Pete Martinez's voice came through the speakers from the engine room. He was a big man with rough hands and a gentle heart who loved machines more than most people loved their families. "Captain, you need to see the readings we're getting from that ship. Their fusion reactors are running cleaner than anything we've ever built. No waste radiation, no heat spillage, it's beautiful work." Morrison smiled slightly. Pete could find beauty in any machine, even an alien one. "Are they a threat to us, Pete?" "From an engineering standpoint, they could probably run circles around US. But Captain, look at their hull design. Those curves, that smooth construction. This ship was built for exploration, not war. It's made for traveling long distances in comfort, not for fighting." Tactical Officer Amy Chun looked up from her weapons console. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who could spot trouble from a million miles away. "Captain, their positioning is interesting. They're not in attack formation. They're just sitting there like they're waiting for something." "Waiting for what?" "Maybe for us to make the first move, or maybe they're as confused as we are." Morrison stood up and walked to the main screen. The alien ship hung in space like a silver jewel, beautiful and mysterious. He wondered what the beings inside looked like. Were they friendly? Were they scared? Did they have families back home who were worried about them? "Danny, any response to our signals?" "Still nothing, Captain. But they're definitely listening. Every time we send a signal, their power output spikes slightly. They're analyzing everything. We send..." Dr. Helen Parker's voice came over the intercom from the science labs. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though until today, all her knowledge had been theoretical. "Captain, I've been studying the ship's design and energy signatures. This is fascinating. The beings who built this ship are clearly very intelligent and very peaceful. Look at the way they've designed their hull. It's optimized for efficiency and comfort, not for battle. These are explorers, Captain, scientists like us." Morrison felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. "Are you sure?" "Doctor, as sure as I can be without meeting them face to face." Captain, I think they're as curious about us as we are about them, but they might be scared too. Think about it from their perspective. They're probably used to meeting species that are less advanced than them. We might be the first ones they've met who can match their technology. Match their technology? Morrison asked. Doctor, they're clearly more advanced than us. In some ways, yes, but Captain, we're in a warship. We have weapons that could probably hurt them badly if we wanted. Teal. They might be looking at us and thinking we're the dangerous ones. Morrison walked back to his chair and sat down. He had never thought about it that way. The Valkyrie was a warship built to protect human colonies from threats. It had guns and missiles and armor. To a peaceful species, it might look very scary. Captain, Lisa called out, the alien ship is moving. Very slowly, but it's moving toward us. Morrison looked at the screen. The alien ship was indeed moving, but so slowly. It was barely noticeable. It was like they were trying to approach without seeming threatening. Maintain our position, Morrison ordered. Keep sending peaceful signals, and everyone stay calm. This is what we trained for. But as he watched the alien ship slowly approach, Morrison couldn't help but wonder what the beings inside were thinking. Were they scared? Were they excited? Did they know that this moment would change everything for both their species? The two ships moved closer together in the darkness of space. One built for war but carrying peaceful intentions. The other built for peace but terrified of the warrior ship approaching them. Neither crew knew that this meeting would be the start of something incredible. Neither crew knew that they were about to teach each other about the different ways that intelligent life could reach for the stars. The alien ship continued its slow approach. Morrison and his crew waited, ready for anything, hoping for the best. In the distance, stars watched silently as two very different species prepared to meet for the first time. History was about to be made. The message from Commander Vexstar traveled through space faster than light, crossing impossible distances in mere hours. It reached the Galactic Council chambers on Centauri Prime just as the morning session was beginning. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from 12 different species, all gathered to discuss trade agreements and scientific cooperation. Council leader Zarathil was ancient even by her species' standards. Her people lived for thousands of years, and she had seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations. Her skin was pale green with silver markings that glowed softly in the chamber's light. She had 4 arms and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. The emergency message appeared on her personal screen, just as she was about to call the session to order. As she read it, her 4 hands began to shake. The words were impossible to believe, but they came from Commander Vexstar, one of their most trusted explorers. Council members, she announced, her voice carrying across the Great Hall. We have received an emergency message from the Outer Rim. A warrior species has been discovered. A species that has achieved interstellar travel while maintaining weapons of mass destruction. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. Representative Calder from the Centauran delegation stood up. He was tall and thin with blue skin and large eyes that showed his disbelief. Council leader, this must be some kind of mistake. No intelligent species develops weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. It goes against every law of civilized evolution. The message includes sensor readings, Zarethil replied. The energy signatures are real. This ship could level entire cities with its smallest weapons. Representative Natra from the hegemony world spoke next. Her people were known for their logic and careful thinking. If this is true, then we are facing something that should not exist. Every species in our alliance achieved space travel through peaceful means. We shared knowledge, we cooperated, we built together. War is something we only read about in ancient history books. The holographic display in the center of the chamber lit up, showing the images that the Zephyrian ship had sent. The council members looked at the human warship and felt fear like they had never experienced before. The ship was huge and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Strange symbols were painted on its hull in what looked like war paint. Everything about its design screamed danger and aggression. Look at the construction, whispered Representative Feltar from the Harmony Worlds. This ship was built by a species that thinks about war first and exploration second. The weapons are integrated into every part of the design. How many beings could a ship like this carry? Asked Representative Mordain from the Crystal Systems. Our estimates suggest at least 500, Zarathil replied. 500 warriors, all trained in the art of destruction. The council chamber fell silent as the members tried to process this information. For over 1,000 years, the Galactic Alliance had existed in peace. Wars were things that happened to primitive species, not to civilizations advanced enough to travel between stars. We must respond, Zarathil finally said. But how do we respond to something we do not understand? How do we negotiate with a species that speaks only the language of violence? Back in space, the two ships continued their slow approach. Aboard the Harmony's edge, Commander Vexstar watched the human warship grow larger on his screens. The closer they got, the more terrifying it became. Commander, Temri reported from her science station, I am detecting multiple weapon systems coming online. Not targeting us yet, but they are ready to fire at a moment's notice. What kind of weapons? Vexstar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Energy weapons that could cut through our hull like paper. Projectile weapons that fire explosive shells. And something else, something I have never seen before. It appears to be some kind of nuclear device. The bridge crew gasped. Nuclear weapons were something from the dark ages of every species' history. The idea that someone would put them on a starship was horrifying. They carry weapons of mass destruction on their exploration vessel? Quinla asked in disbelief. This is not an exploration vessel, Vexstar replied grimly. This is a ship of war. We are looking at a species that has turned space travel into an extension of their violent nature. On the human ship, Captain Morrison was having his own problems. The alien vessel was sending signals that their computers could not fully translate. Some of it was mathematics, which was universal. But mixed in with the numbers were what appeared to be warning signals. Captain, Danny Wright reported from communications. They're broadcasting what our computers identify as distress calls. But they're also sending mathematical sequences that might be weapon specifications. Weapon specifications? Morrison asked. It's hard to be sure, Captain. But some of the numbers they're sending match the energy outputs of our own weapon systems. They might be trying to tell us what they know about our capabilities, Morrison frowned. Or they might be trying to figure out how to defend against us. Tactical Officer Amy Chun looked up from her console. Captain, they're powering up what looks like a faster-than-light communication array, a big one. They're sending a message somewhere. Calling for backup, Morrison said grimly. How long until their message reaches its destination? Unknown. Captain, but if they have allies in this sector, we could be looking at multiple contacts within hours. Chief Engineer Pete Martinez's voice came over the intercom. Captain, I've been analyzing their ship's construction. It's beautiful work, but there's something strange about it. They have amazing technology, but no visible weapons. Not even basic defensive systems. No weapons at all? Morrison asked. None that I can detect, Captain. It's like they built a ship for pure exploration. No thought given to self-defense. Dr. Helen Parker joined the conversation from her lab. Captain, this is fascinating. We're looking at a species that achieved interstellar travel without developing military technology. They must come from a world where war is unknown. Unknown? Morrison asked. How is that possible? Think about it, Captain. What if they evolved from prey animals instead of predators? What if their species learned to cooperate instead of compete? They might not understand the concept of violence at all. Morrison considered this. It was hard to imagine a species that had never known war. Humans had been fighting each other since they lived in caves. Even now, with colonies spread across dozens of worlds, there were still conflicts and threats that required military protection. If they don't understand violence, Morrison said slowly, then what do they think we are? To them, Captain, we probably look like demons. A species that carries weapons of mass destruction as easily as we carry tools. They might think we're here to destroy them. The realization hit Morrison like a physical blow. The alien ship was not preparing to attack. It was terrified. It was sending distress calls because it thought the humans were going to destroy it. "Danny, change our transmission protocol," Morrison ordered. "Send them pictures of our crew. Show them we're people, not monsters. Send them images of our families, our children, our homes." "Aye, Captain." But aboard the Harmony's Edge, the human images only made things worse. The aliens looked at pictures of human faces and saw predators. They saw the eyes of hunters, the teeth of carnivores, the faces of beings who had fought their way to the stars. "Commander," Temri whispered, "these beings evolved from apex predators. Look at their bone structure, their muscle development. They are built for hunting and killing." "And yet," Vexstar observed, "they are sending us pictures of their young, their families. Why would warriors show us their weaknesses?" "Maybe it is a trap," Quinla suggested. "Maybe they want us to think they are peaceful before they attack." The two ships continued their approach, each crew growing more frightened of the other. The humans saw peaceful explorers who might be calling for military help. The aliens saw violent warriors who might be planning to attack. Neither side understood that they were looking at their own reflection in a funhouse mirror. The humans saw what they might have been if they had developed differently. The aliens saw what they might have become if their world had been more dangerous. In the depths of space, two species prepared to meet for the first time. Both were intelligent. Both were curious. Both wanted to explore the universe and find their place in it, but they had taken very different paths to reach the stars. And those differences were about to cause the greatest misunderstanding in galactic history. The distance between the ships continued to shrink. Soon they would be close enough to see each other clearly, close enough to make decisions that would affect the future of both species, close enough to either start a war or begin the most important friendship in the galaxy. The space around the two ships suddenly filled with bright flashes of light. One by one, 15 alien vessels appeared out of nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Each ship was different, representing the various species of the Galactic Alliance, but they all moved together like parts of a single machine. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Peaceful Resolution. He was a massive being, nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that shifted between deep purple and blue like the surface of a calm ocean. His forearms moved with careful precision as he studied the tactical displays around him. The Admiral had lived for over 300 years and had overseen dozens of first-contact situations. He had met species that communicated through colors, others that spoke in musical tones, and even one that shared thoughts through touch. But he had never encountered anything like what his sensors were showing him now. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "both vessels are maintaining their positions. The human ship has not powered weapons or taken any aggressive action. They appear to be attempting communication with the Zephyrian vessel." Admiral Kethver studied the human warship on his main screen. It was indeed massive and covered with enough weapons to destroy entire fleets. But something about its behavior puzzled him. If these humans were the savage warriors that the report suggested, why were they not attacking? "What are they doing?" he asked his science officer. "Sir, they appear to be transmitting mathematical sequences, basic pictographs, and what our computers identify as images of their own species. Standard first contact protocols, Admiral." "First contact protocols?" The Admiral's voice showed his confusion. "Warriors do not use first contact protocols. They use weapons." Captain Morrison watched his screens as the alien fleet took position around them. Each ship was beautiful in its own way, with flowing lines and elegant curves that made them look more like works of art than spacecraft. But Morrison was not fooled by their beauty. He had seen the energy readings when they arrived. "Captain," Lisa Grant reported from her sensor station, 15 ships total. Different designs, different technologies, but they're all working together. This is definitely a military response. Weapons, Morrison asked. Hard to tell, Captain. Their technology is so advanced that what looks like a sensor array might actually be a weapon. But I'm not detecting any obvious targeting systems aimed at us. Danny Wright looked up from his communications console. Captain, we're being hailed by the lead ship. They're using the same mathematical protocol we've been working on with the first alien vessel. Put it through, Morrison ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was deep and rich, translated by their computers into English with obvious difficulty. There were long pauses between words as the translation software struggled with concepts that had no human equivalent. Human vessel, the voice said slowly. This is Admiral Kethver of the Galactic Alliance. We come seeking understanding. Please state your intentions regarding the science vessel Harmony's Edge. Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They all looked as confused as he felt. Science vessel? He said to himself, then activated the communication system. Admiral Kethver, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Nations ship Valkyrie. We encountered your science vessel during a routine patrol and have been attempting to establish peaceful communication. We mean no harm to anyone. There was a very long pause before the Admiral responded. When he did, his voice carried notes of disbelief. You say you mean no harm, Captain Morrison. Yet you command a vessel designed solely for warfare. Your ship carries enough destructive power to eliminate multiple star systems. How do we reconcile these facts? Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Multiple star systems? The Valkyrie was powerful, but it was not that powerful. Unless these aliens had never seen nuclear weapons before. Admiral, our ship is designed for defense, not conquest. We protect our colonies and trade routes from pirates and other threats. We are explorers. And traders who happen to need protection in a dangerous galaxy. Dangerous galaxy? The Admiral's voice showed genuine confusion. Captain Morrison, the galaxy has been at peace for over 1,000 years. There have been no wars between star-traveling species in recorded history. What dangers do you speak of? Now it was Morrison's turn to be confused. No wars for 1,000 years? That seemed impossible. How could so many different species develop space travel without fighting over resources or territory? Dr. Helen Parker's voice came over the intercom from her lab. Captain, request permission to speak with the Admiral directly. I think I understand. What's happening here? Go ahead, Doctor. Admiral Kethver, this is Dr. Helen Parker, xenobiologist aboard the Valkyrie. May I ask about your species' evolutionary history? Specifically, how your people developed the technology for interstellar travel? Another long pause. Dr. Parker, my people evolved from what you might call herbivores. Peaceful creatures that lived in large communities and shared resources freely. We achieved space flight through scientific cooperation and the desire to explore and understand the universe. When we encountered other species, we shared knowledge and built alliances. This is how all civilized species develop. All civilized species except humans, Dr. Parker replied gently. Admiral, humans evolve differently. We come from a world where survival required competition and sometimes violence. We develop space travel not just to explore but to escape the limitations of our homeworld and protect ourselves from threats. You are saying that your species achieved the stars through warfare? The Admiral's voice carried a note of horror. Not through warfare, Admiral, but despite it. We learned to fight when we had to, but we also learned to cooperate when fighting was not enough. We built ships like the Valkyrie not because we wanted to conquer, but because we needed to defend what we love. Admiral Kethver turned to his science officer. Run a full biological scan of the human vessel. I want to understand what we are dealing with. The results that came back confirmed Dr. Parker's words in ways that terrified the alien crew. The humans were indeed predators with forward-facing eyes, strong jaws, and muscle development that suggested a species built for hunting and fighting. But they were also clearly intelligent and capable of complex reasoning. Admiral, his science officer reported quietly. They have families aboard their ship. Children, they are not just warriors. They are people who bring their loved ones with them when they travel. Children, The Admiral was shocked. What kind of warrior brings children into battle? Captain Morrison overheard this and laughed, though he tried to keep it quiet. Admiral, we don't have children aboard the Valkyrie. The doctor was showing you pictures from our home worlds. Images of our families to demonstrate that we are peaceful people despite our military appearance. You show us images of your young to prove you are peaceful, the Admiral asked. This makes no sense. Why would warriors show strangers their most vulnerable population? Because, Admiral, Dr. Parker explained, those children are the reason we fight. We don't fight because we enjoy violence. We fight to protect the ones who cannot protect themselves. Our weapons exist so that our children can grow up safe. This concept was so alien to the Galactic Alliance species that it took several minutes for the translation computers to find appropriate words. The idea that violence could be used to protect peace was completely foreign to them. You fight too. Create peace? Admiral Kethver asked slowly. Sometimes, Admiral, when there is no other choice. But we always prefer to talk first. Commander Vextar's voice joined the conversation from the Harmony's edge. Admiral, these humans have been trying to communicate with us for hours. They have made no aggressive moves despite having us completely outgunned. Their behavior is not consistent with a warrior species seeking conquest. Admiral Kethver studied the tactical display again. The human ship had indeed been making no threatening moves. It had approached slowly and carefully, always broadcasting peaceful intentions. Its weapons were powered, but not targeted, ready for defense, but not prepared for attack. Captain Morrison, the Admiral said finally, your species presents us with a paradox. You are clearly capable of great violence, yet you choose to communicate instead of conquer. You carry weapons of mass destruction, yet you speak of protecting. Children, help us understand. Morrison thought carefully before responding. Admiral, imagine you discovered a species that was threatening your people. Your families, your children, your whole way of life. What would you do? We would try to communicate with them. Find a peaceful solution, and if communication failed? If they could not be reasoned with and continued to threaten everything you cared about? There was a very long silence on the alien frequency. Finally, Admiral Kethver spoke in a voice that was barely a whisper. I do not know. Such a situation has never occurred in our history. That's the difference between our species, Admiral. We faced those situations many times. We've learned that sometimes to preserve peace you must be prepared for war. Not because you want war, but because the willingness to fight sometimes prevents the need to fight. The next several hours passed slowly as the three groups of ships maintained their careful positions in space. Captain Morrison knew that one wrong move could start a war that would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Kethver felt the weight of 1,000 years of peace resting on his shoulders. Commander Vextar watched from his small science vessel, amazed that he was witnessing the most important moment in galactic history. Captain, Dr. Helen Parker said over the intercom, I have an idea. What if we invite them aboard our ship? Let them see that we're people, not monsters. Morrison considered this carefully. Doctor, if they're as peaceful as they seem, bringing them aboard a warship might terrify them even more. Or it might show them that even warriors can be civilized, she replied. Captain, they need to see that our weapons exist to protect, not to destroy. Admiral Kethver was having similar thoughts aboard his flagship. Science officer, what would you recommend? Admiral, I believe we must take the risk. These humans are clearly intelligent and capable of reason. Perhaps if we meet face to face, we can understand each other better. The Admiral nodded slowly. Contact Captain Morrison. Propose a meeting. When the suggestion came through, Morrison felt both excitement and nervousness. First contact was one thing. Actually meeting aliens face to face was something else entirely. Admiral, Morrison responded, we would be honored to host you aboard the Valkyrie. But I must warn you, our ship is designed for military purposes. It may seem intimidating. Captain Morrison, if we are to understand each other, we must be willing to see the truth of who we are. I will bring a small delegation. Will you do the same and visit our ship? Morrison agreed. Within an hour, arrangements were made. A small shuttle would transport Admiral Kethver and two of his officers to the Valkyrie. Captain Morrison and Dr. Parker would visit the peaceful Resolution. Both groups hoped that seeing each other's ships would help them understand each other better. The alien shuttle that approached the Valkyrie was like nothing the humans had ever seen. It moved without any visible engines, gliding through space as smoothly as a fish swimming through water. When it entered the hangar bay, it settled to the deck with no sound at all. Morrison stood waiting with an honor guard of 6 Marines. He had chosen his most professional and least intimidating soldiers, but he knew they still looked like warriors to beings who had never seen war. The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss, and Admiral Kethver stepped out. Morrison had seen him on the communication screens, but seeing him in person was breathtaking. The Admiral was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. His forearms moved like he was conducting music, and his large eyes held wisdom that seemed ancient. Behind him came Science Officer Veltara, a smaller being with silver markings on her green skin, and Commander Zephalon, whose blue skin seemed to shift colors as he moved. "Admiral Kethver," Morrison said, stepping forward with his hand extended in the human gesture of greeting. "Welcome aboard the Uns Valkyrie." The Admiral looked at Morrison's outstretched hand with curiosity. Dr. Parker quickly explained the gesture, and the Admiral carefully extended one of his 4 hands to clasp Morrison's. "Captain Morrison, you are smaller than I expected," Morrison smiled. "Not all warriors are giants, Admiral. May I show you our ship?" As they walked through the corridors of the Valkyrie, Morrison watched the aliens' reactions carefully. They seemed amazed by everything they saw, but not in the way he expected. Instead of being frightened by the military equipment, they seemed fascinated by the craftsmanship. "Your metalworking is excellent," Veltara observed, running her hand along a wall panel. "The construction is both strong and elegant." They passed a group of off-duty crew members in the recreation room. The humans were playing cards, reading books, and talking quietly. Some were looking at pictures of their families back home. "These are your warriors?" Commander Zephalon asked quietly. "These are our people," Morrison replied. "They happen to be trained for combat, but they're also scientists, engineers, teachers, artists, parents. They're human beings first, soldiers second." The aliens exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected from a warrior species. When they reached the bridge, Morrison showed them the weapons controls and tactical displays. But he also showed them the navigation systems, the science stations, and the communication equipment. "We use these same systems to explore new worlds, to search for signs of life, to map the galaxy," Morrison explained. "The weapons are just one part of what this ship can do." Meanwhile, Captain Morrison and Dr. Parker were having their own revelations aboard the peaceful Resolution. The alien ship was beautiful beyond description. The corridors were filled with artwork and flowing water features. Gardens grew in specially designed chambers that seemed to bring the beauty of a dozen worlds into space. "Your ship is magnificent," Dr. Parker said to Admiral Kethver's aide who was showing them around. "It's like a flying city." "We spend years at a time in deep space," the aide explained. "We wanted our ships to feel like home." They visited the science laboratories where alien researchers were studying samples from hundreds of different worlds. They saw the library where the knowledge of a dozen species was stored and shared freely. They visited the cultural center where alien musicians were practicing songs that told the history of their people. "This is incredible," Morrison said. "You've built a civilization in space." "We have built what you humans might call a community," the aide replied. "A place where different species can work together to understand the universe." When both groups returned to their own ships, they had much to think about. The aliens had seen that humans were not mindless destroyers, but intelligent beings who happened to be prepared for violence. The humans had seen what a truly peaceful civilization could accomplish when it had no need to waste resources on weapons. Admiral Kethver called another conference between all 3 ships. This time the conversation was very different. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral began, "I owe you an apology." We saw your weapons and assumed you were a threat. We did not consider that you might carry those weapons to protect others." "No apology needed, Admiral," Morrison replied. "We made assumptions too. We thought you might be calling for military support when you were actually asking for scientific advice." Commander Vexstar joined the conversation. "Both of our species have something to learn from each other. We have achieved peace through cooperation. You have achieved strength through preparedness. Perhaps together we can achieve something greater than either of us could accomplish alone," Dr. Parker spoke up. "Admiral, what if we could combine our approaches? What if we could build a galaxy where peace is maintained not just through good intentions, but through the strength to defend it when necessary? You are suggesting that we learn to fight?" Admiral Kethver asked. "I'm suggesting that you learn to defend," Morrison corrected. "There may come a day when the galaxy faces a threat that cannot be reasoned with. On that day, you'll need to be ready. And in return," Dr. Parker added, "perhaps you could teach us how to build the kind of lasting peace that you've achieved, how to resolve conflicts without violence, how to create communities that span the stars." The Admiral was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Captain Morrison, would you be willing to accompany our fleet to Centauri Prime? The Council needs to meet you in person. They need to understand what we have learned here today." Morrison looked around his bridge at his crew. He saw excitement in their eyes, but also nervousness. They were about to become humanity's first ambassadors to a galactic civilization. "Admiral, it would be our honor." Over the next several days, the combined fleet made its way toward Centauri Prime. The journey gave both sides time to learn more about each other. Human and alien scientists worked together to compare their technologies. Cultural exchanges were organized where each species shared their art, music, and stories. The aliens learned that humans had indeed fought many wars, but they had also created great works of art, made scientific discoveries, and built societies based on justice and freedom. The humans learned that the galaxy was full of wonders they had never imagined, civilizations that had solved problems through cooperation rather than conflict. When they finally arrived at Centauri Prime, Captain Morrison found himself standing before the Galactic Council as the representative of humanity. The great hall was filled with beings from a dozen different worlds, all of them watching him with curiosity and hope. "Council members," Morrison began, "my species comes to you not as conquerors, but as friends. We carry weapons, yes, but we carry them to protect the innocent and defend the weak. We have learned through hard experience that peace is precious, and sometimes that precious thing must be defended." Council leader Zarethel spoke for the assembly. "Captain Morrison, your species presents us with new possibilities. Perhaps the galaxy needs both approaches, the wisdom to choose peace when possible, and the strength to defend it when necessary." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would be invited to join the Galactic Alliance, not as junior members, but as equals who brought a unique perspective to the community of stars.